I wanted to talk about a more broad subject of exactly what is functional medicine. What does it mean to be a doctor of functional medicine? What do I do in my own day-to-day existing? And how does that look as someone who more focuses on the cause instead of just treating a symptom? So in general, I like to explain very basically that we are stuck to a certain degree in a traditional medicine paradigm where if you don't have a set diagnosis and you come in with symptoms, you're kind of chasing each symptom. So the goal in medical school is to look at a set, and especially as an internal medicine doctor, which is honestly why I chose internal medicine, was because I knew at the time there was more to why people had symptoms and why people were sick, and I wanted to figure it out, and there were no other paths that I could find. So I started on the one that seemed the closest related to an actual cause, and that was internal medicine. And so what we would do is we'd have a patient come in with a constellation of symptoms, and then we get blood work or we get scans and we get opinions of specialists, and it was like a puzzle. So I loved, as a kid, logic problems. I always wanted to figure it out, like chase the breadcrumbs, put the pieces together. And if you put it together and find a diagnosis, fantastic. Then, okay, this patient has, let's say something very specific I'll share, renal artery stenosis. That's where the artery or blood flow to the kidney has some plaque in it, and it causes very high blood pressure that doesn't respond to medicines. So that patient may have come in with super high blood pressure. They would have had blood work. Maybe the labs looked okay. Maybe there was something off in their kidney. They would have had some scans to make sure, and maybe cardiac testing. They would have been put on a lot of blood pressure medicine because we would have been worried it was a risk for a stroke. And after all of that, if somebody really was smart, especially if the patient came in at a younger age, they'd think, well, maybe we should look at the specific test, and they'd find the blockage, know that would trip a response of the kidney that would cause high blood pressure, and that could be fixed. Maybe it was with angioplasty. They'd go in the groin, open the artery going to the kidney, and the patient's blood pressure would resolve. That's a really cool, beautiful, traditional medicine approach and treatment that is clear and easy-ish, right? So there are some things like that in traditional medicine. Also, you cut yourself, you're out having a good old day on the boat, and you cut yourself on a little bit of coral reef or the side of the boat, and you've got a gash and it's getting red, and that red is spreading. So now you've got a cellulitis potentially from some bugs that are in the water, which can be pretty dangerous. That's another pretty straightforward, right? It's cellulitis. Let's make sure the bone's not involved, maybe get some images and high-dose antibiotics, and the patient is cured. So as you can see, there are scenarios where traditional medicine works, and we need it. And that's something I like to really express, where a lot of people that are influencers or know what's out there, and they're giving all the talks about the newest type of medicine, they don't have the capacity to treat in this manner. So they may poo-poo traditional medicine. I don't ever do that. And I think anyone that takes a black and white approach and says something else is negative is really should give you a red flag, where nothing is black and white. So if those practitioners want to go that path where everything is diagnosable, there's a treatment, there's a drug, what happens in reality, that's fine, that's what we're taught in medical school, but what happens in reality is that the majority of the people that come in are not black and white. They don't fit in a box, they have a multitude of symptoms, and when we try to treat them, we end up not having a definitive diagnosis, not having a definitive treatment plan, and we're chasing symptoms. So we may be putting a patient on something for a symptom, and then the patient could have a symptom from the drug that was for the symptom, or the shot that was to prevent or treat the symptom. And that's where we are sitting here today with the population, at least in the US, sicker than ever. And that's where functional medicine has become such a buzzword, has become so important, is because in a functional medicine approach, we actually can get answers. Meaning we're digging deeper for the root cause. So that's the core definition of a functional medicine approach, is doing testing or utilizing additional tools like muscle testing, or specific labs that are going to get us a little more deeper information, and then we can start on a pathway of healing the body. So this whole person approach, where you need to understand that not only in functional medicine do we look for other ways to diagnose, but we also, when we start treating, we're treating the person as a whole. And this is where traditional medicine's gotten in trouble in another way, which is it's gotten so subspecialized that those specialists are not treating the whole person, right? You go to the eye doctor, your eyes are getting treated. You're at the cardiologist, they may put you on 80 milligrams of Lipitor. They don't care if you're not going to make any more testosterone, right? So functional medicine is also looking at the whole body and also making you accountable, right? So if you're going to be eating poorly, if you're not exercising, if your stress level's through the roof, if you're in fight or flight and not taking accountability or trying to make actionable changes, then even functional medicine, the greatest biohacking, the highest level care, isn't going to make a dent. So I want you to understand that functional medicine is also it's a collaboration. You're not relying on the all-holy doctor in the white coat to fix you. And that is where a lot of things also went wrong, where it was, we gave away our sovereignty to authority type figures, and the doctor was one of them. It doesn't mean that the things the doctor was practicing are all wrong. So you finding that middle ground for you is really important. And what I found is that certain conditions, like I said, autoimmunity, chronic fatigue, recurrent infections, gut issues, these are all areas where traditional medicine really is not cutting it. And functional medicine has been able to excel. And this is why people are online searching. This is why we're being led by humanity to push medicine into the next iteration, which I'm so excited about. Because as we see sort of the collapse of the traditional paradigm, where these models of insurance and putting people into a box and treating symptoms are not working, humans like you, patients, are driving this change. It's very exciting. And even though functional medicine is still a little bit of the wild, wild west, and by that I mean you could go to 10 practitioners of functional medicine and get 10 different plans. So clearly it's still a nuanced. I want you to understand that part of why that's the case is because it's not up to the practitioner. This is a collaboration. So where are you in this journey? And every time somebody comes in to see me, every single time, I will ask them, what do you want? How, what are you willing to do? Where are we? Where are you on your journey? Because I could have somebody come in, they're still in victim mode, they expect to be fixed, they want to bring that old paradigm of the traditional doctor to me, and it might be a win for me to get them to try to eat cleaner, regulate some sleep patterns, and maybe take some vitamin D, and that's it, okay? So you need to assess where you are on your own journey and then find a practitioner who can respect that. So I can tell you, for me, why I got into functional medicine was because of my own body. And I was gifted, as I described this, I was gifted with childhood leukemia. So I got sick at the age of 15. At 15, you're old enough to know something's off and there should be a reason why you got sick. So I have friends and colleagues that got sick when they were little, like 4 or 5. That's too young. Then I've got so many of my colleagues that it happened once they were doctors. So I clearly had a big mission from the beginning because the universe made sure I got sick from 15 to 20. I got heart failure from chemotherapy. I relapsed on my ovary right after all my hair grew back. So crazy stories that happened to me during that age. So as I asked the healers that were caring for me, very targeted questions, I saw quickly they didn't have answers. So then I took it upon myself to say, I've got to figure out why I got sick. And that's why I went to medical school. And there's got to be answers there. And then I found out, sure enough, that there were no answers in medical school either. So for me, that led me to work in collaboration with patients like you to find newer tools or modalities and try them and see how patients responded. I learned on my own body. Once I had my daughter, I got Hashimoto's and psoriasis and sinus problems. Then I had issues with my heart that kept recurring. So I've been led by my body to be one of the original biohackers, meaning I had to try new things. I had to try supplements because the drugs weren't the answer. So that was as bad and horrible as things I've been through with my body. That was a gift. So that's what I want to share with all of you, that it doesn't have to be this extreme level that I went through, but where in your life have you tried things, or have you wondered what's wrong and sought help? Maybe you've done blood work, maybe you've done scans, maybe you're not getting answers, maybe you're frustrated. That's okay. That's the first step, is that awareness that maybe something's missing. And I think at this point on the planet, I can say humanity is aware that something is missing, especially after COVID and the pandemic and different things we've seen with shots and all this reactivity. Many of you may be in a space sitting here watching this video right now where you know something is wrong, but you don't know what it is or how to go about it. And my advice to you would be, understand first off that there are answers, whether it's things as evolved as biohacking, like contrast therapy, light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, all these fun things you're hearing about that seem sexy, whether it's that, or maybe it's more advanced genetic testing or mitochondrial testing that's just now coming out. Those may be your path, but very likely you're going to want to start with a more gentle framework. So that's why I've created something called the 11 Pillars of Health that I go through in my Lit Journey course. If you guys want access to, we'll have that listed, where we help you reclaim yourself again. So reclaim a clear mind, get you out of fight or flight, reclaim your right to be a healthy, healed version of yourself. And then we walk through slowly at whatever pace you're ready for, or quickly if you are already doing a lot of this, through healing your gut, balancing your thyroid, working on your adrenals, working on your hormones, getting to chronic infections, getting yourself structurally aligned, looking at your mitochondria. And again, these are things that are listed and gone through in detail in my course. But if you're ready to take a non-traditional and a functional medicine approach that you can do on your own, you don't necessarily have to find that practitioner, although in many cases that's going to be a better answer for you, is to find that practitioner that you trust, that you can work through, self-pace it at your own pace, what feels right for you. But you really want to start, and you can start right now, as simple as understanding as you wake up to the fact that traditional medicine has been missing things. Wake up to the fact that our food industry and big pharma have us programmed. So waking up to the matrix, I call it, of we are in a place where we're buying food that is contaminated, and many of these big food companies also own big pharma. So it's a perfect place to keep people where you don't want, the agenda people don't want patients that are so sick that they die. They want patients in the system, in the matrix, where they don't feel well, so they seek out traditional drugs. And then they have the drugs, which also have side effects, and they still don't feel well, so then they keep eating food because they can't break out of that cycle. And that is not you, or you would not be here. So those of you ready, start today, clean up your diet, get outside, get in nature, hydrate more, turn on some meditations, and then decide what's the best starting point for you to get out of that traditional path get into a more functional, collaborative way to heal. I'm excited for you on your journey, and we are here to help you every step of the way.